Hello, lovely beings. JJ Rose here. Let's talk about death. Hopefully you're not listening to this first thing in the morning, but if you are, let's do it. So I wanted to talk about my experience with death and how the process goes, because there's a lot of different information out there. And to be honest, a lot of it dovetails in together, but I know it's one of those questions that a lot of people like to ask, and depending on who you ask, you're going to get all sorts of different fun answers. Before I start, there are two people who I really want to thank for urging me to make this episode. The first is Kyra over at Vibe Selection Podcast. Not only did she help me really make this episode in particular, but all of the episodes, to be honest. She's been pushing me for years to do this on my own just to get the information out there. And she followed her dream and started her own podcast. And it's really fun to listen to when you guys get a chance. Again, Vibe Selection. I'll have it in the comment details. And another one is one of my friends who actually, her husband passed away about 2 months ago. And we were having this beautiful conversation last night. And she kind of convinced me to do this one, which isn't always the most popular subject matter, but it is important. So to both of them, thank you so much. All right. So we are in physical bodies, and there are two things that we know in life to be certain: taxes and death. And if you're into witchcraft at all, you know that there is a Latin term called Momento, Mori, which means always remember death. And it's something that in the old spiritual beliefs was extremely important, because you want to live your life understanding that you're not immortal in this body. So make the best of it while you're here. All right. So the physical body gets to the point where it passes away. The heart stops beating, the brain stops working. And typically what happens is the person is greeted by the white tunnel, right? And they have people who are coming to help them transition. These could be people who were alive when they were alive, family members, friends, and it can also be their spirit team as well in there, depending on who they were most comfortable with. And they are now seeing these people completely unveiled, meaning you are seeing them complete and pure for the spiritual bodies that they are, their spirits greeting your spirit. Most people with near-death experiences will all say there was a feeling of just such joy and love that it's hard to even think you'd want to come back from that, because it's just so overwhelmingly different than anything we have on this planet. There are people who do get to delight in that feeling with really wonderful relationships, but this takes that up a couple notches even. So their job basically is to help your spirit, kind of, congratulations, you graduated, right? And then they help you with the transition part. So basically your spirit is taken out of your physical form, and it is now in spirit form and transmuted. And now you're taken over to the Tribunal. So this is after you are greeted. You've seen everyone, you understand that you're dead, you're not coming back for whatever reason, and now you go to the Tribunal. So the way that I've seen this is it's like a dark room with 3 humongous movie film screens on 3 walls in front of you. And you are rewatching the life that you lived from 3 different vantage points. The first is your vantage point while you were alive, but now you're watching it with full spiritual knowledge of what you came here to do, came here to learn, etc., right? All the things that you came here expressly to do, grow, work on, etc., you're seeing it from that vantage point, rewatching it. Now the second one, you're now watching everyone else's that you were impacting directly with you from their vantage point. So every time you're having a conversation with someone, you're now seeing it through that other person's eyes. You're now seeing the impact you had on other people. And then the third screen is on the universal scale. So seeing it overly and completely, not only from you and the people you were physically talking to, but what that then went out to do for the world. What impact did that have? Your entire life, every moment of it. So I know in another episode I said make every day and every moment count. And this is kind of what I mean by that, because it does count. Every action, every inaction, every reaction, they all matter. They all count. And if you haven't seen the movie The Butterfly Effect, it was a great film in illustrating this on a larger scale, but it at least was one of the first times in my life I had ever seen a film depict this. Of every action, there is a consequence, whether good or bad, elsewhere. Now, this, watching back, obviously in spirit form, we don't have time the way that we have time here in these corporal bodies. So if we were going to say, though, it would be around 2 to 3 days, typically, our time of spirit form, having to rewatch this lifetime from all 3 of these different vantage points. And you're watching them all at the same time, because remember, you're in spirit form now. You can multitask way better than you can in your physical form. Sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm in a human body right now, and multitasking is available only up to a certain degree. That being said, when you are done with the tribunal, there's a panel, and this is, you could call it your spirit team, your spirit guides. These are beings that are there to help you and to advise. So they're an advisory position. And from there, they're asking you, how'd you do? And at this point, and again, this is my belief, because when we're in spirit form, we are one with spirit, i.e. God. So therefore, there is no distinction. So when we are in that position, even though we are not God directly, but we are fully unveiled, we are able to determine at that time how we did. And therefore, what do we need to learn going forward? What do we need to redo? What did we do well enough that, okay, we don't need to go through that again? And what more could we have done that maybe we need to go work a little bit better on, or, get some learning, some practice. So from there, the advisory council assists your spirit in understanding what it needs to do. And there are spirits who, from that point, that level of your spirit will need to go to some classes, some spiritual classes. There are times when, nope, put me back in, coach. They are ready to go back in, be reincarnated, be reborn, and, do another life over again. And there are some that they need to hang out for a little bit and kind of process and learn as well. But maybe they graduated. Maybe they're doing something on another level where they're not coming back to Earth, or they're not coming back in human form on this plane, this level of their being. They're going somewhere else. So at this point, I'm sure I have some people out there going, wait a minute, but what about heaven and hell? All right. So again, this is my opinion and my experience. The thought of dying and going and sitting up on a fluffy white cloud forever and ever with a whole bunch of people and just quote unquote hanging out forever and ever, amen, seems awful boring. And that also doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because God doesn't waste space. God doesn't waste anything. God, universe, spirit, creator, source. It doesn't make any sense to me that we would we're one and done. No. So that thought of going and sitting on a fluffy white cloud. Now, like I said, there are spirits who need to kind of take a knee and process and get some classes or get some other learning under their belt and get some other experiences. These are things like body sharing and spiritual, classes and things that are happening way above our pay grade, if you will. And The thought of hell, i.e., a location where you're going and you're just basically being tortured nonstop. Honestly, there is a location pretty close to hell if you just want to sit there and self-flagellate all day. And, I personally don't recommend. Yes, there is a place like hell, but it's not the hellfire and brimstone exactly. Consider it more like a very awful waiting room until your spirit can update or uptick itself enough to get it out of there. I.e., you have to fight to get yourself out of where you put yourself into. And when I say put yourself into it, it is a mindset, it is a spiritual set of thinking that you deserve that for whatever reason, and therefore going to it. Now, there's the issue of purgatory, which I know not all religions believe in. There is a place like purgatory, and I know when I talk about the episode of entities, when I talk about ghosts, true ghosts of what they are, that I go into this slightly. So purgatory for me would basically be that you've passed away and you're not crossing over. You're stuck. And you're stuck whether it's because you don't want to cross over because you're scared, and you're kind of in this helpless place where, you're lost in a way. And there are true ghosts that are just lost. And that's usually when, eventually someone's going to show up and help scuttle them along if they want to go. It's up to them. Again, consent is key, not only in physical form, but also in spiritual form as well. And of course, when we pass on, again, we're going to a place without time, coming from a place with time. So although us here who are left, we're experiencing time, we're experiencing the grief, the loss of the person who has passed away, but the person who's passed away is no longer dealing in time. So yes, they can come back immediately and start giving little signs to their friends and their family who they've left behind, who are really mourning them and need it. And that was actually the conversation I had last night that led to me wanting to record this of, when someone you love so much passes away and you're gifted the experience of them coming back and leaving you a sign or helping you with something or leaving something out for you, and making it apparent that it's them, i.e., there's no real way this could happen. It had to be them. And it inside. Honestly, if you're being honest with yourself, the difference between a spiritual experience and something physically happening that you can explain away. But you just know when it's that. When you get that gift of that experience, it is so wonderful and so touching. And honestly, please remember those experiences, because that spirit's way of whoever it was that passed away, of saying, I'm here, I'm okay, and I'm moving on, and I want you to be okay too. And I understand that there's a lot of people who fear death, and I get it. We've been fed for, hundreds of thousands of years, all these different, if you do one thing wrong, you're going to hell, or, you got to, work in order to get to heaven. But again, I come back to, do you think God wants you to be subservient out of fear, or to do a really good job in your life of whatever it is that you're doing out of love and joy, coming from a place of a heart-centered place versus a lower vibration of fear? I better act good, otherwise I'm going to go to hell, versus I'm acting good because I want to glorify God, Spirit, Universe, Creator. And if this resonates with you, wonderful. And if it doesn't, I am not bashing any of your beliefs. Again, everything I say on here is my experience and my opinion, and I'm not bashing anyone's belief. If you believe something differently, that is a-okay with me. Just a last little thing. When they say life is for the living, it is a really true statement. There are a lot of people who get stuck in grief. And I understand there's been so much death in the world the past, probably 7-8 years. And even before that, there was a lot, but maybe not on the scale that we've been seeing as consistently as of late. And I understand there's a lot of people checking out right now and they're moving on. But for those of us who are still alive, it is imperative that we remember that life is for the living. We are still alive. We have a job to do while we're here. And even if you think, I'm stuck in a wheelchair, I'm not able to talk, all I can do is breathe, there is a reason for that. Your soul needs that experience. Other people, for whatever reason, need your experience of you being here and you being you. And so the least you can do is try and grow and do the best you can while you're here. And I wish you all the absolute best for this day and beyond. Peace be with you.